Ladies and gents, I now present to you my NES collection. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that this is going to be a little difficult for me. No, I'm not going to cry like a little baby, but it depresses me because this has been the home of my NES cartridges ever since, as long as I can remember, probably 10, 11 years. Before that, they were on a bookcase, and I had only 50 carts. Now I seriously have no idea how many I have. If you feel like counting them after this video is done, you are more than welcome to. But I seriously do not have the patience to do this. To do this, nor do I have the inclination. I just want to show my collection and pack them in one of these puppies. So that's where they're going. And it makes me sad because, well, you know, it's not something you look forward to doing precisely, but it's something that has to be done because I'm moving. So, without further ado, I guess I should begin. First cartridge is 3D World Runner. This game was made by Squaresoft, but published by Acclaim, excuse me. I don't know what the hell. And it's a game where you run around, you shoot, jump, and later in the game, you have to jump on top of these pillars that piss me off, and you have to get them just right or you'll fall into a pit. To me, that was a fatal flaw of the game, and beyond that point, unless you're really lucky, you'll never beat it. But I don't know, I like the game, and that catchy music during a stage makes you want to do a happy dance. Guerrilla War by SNK. It's more like think of the Ikari Warriors, but a hell of a lot better, because people who know me personally are very reluctant to know that I am very hateful towards the Ikari Warriors, the first one. But this is definitely a better game. It's got good music, good gameplay. You get to play as Fidel Castro. I'm serious. And some other dude. If you know all about the Guerrilla War, go ahead and fill me in. Even though I really don't give two shits. To me, history is history for a reason. Shovelware NES game, but with such pretty cover art by a company that was so high and mighty during this time period, but now has been taken over by a shitty company. Heroes of the Lance, possibly the worst D&D game ever made on a home console. Now, the company I was talking about was not FCI. Now, before I continue about what I'm about to say, hang on. Okay, sorry about that. If you look at the FCI logo, it looks like the Pony Can logo in Japan. Are they somehow affiliated? I never really looked it up. Also, the company I was referring for is TSR and SSI, who is now Wizards of the Coast, which, in my opinion, is one of the worst companies ever in existence of making card games, because they totally took D&D and they ruined it. You don't have to agree with me, but that's my personal opinion, because I used to be a D&D fan. My character's name was Typhon Broddock. I was a fighter, and I forgot my stats, but it was a long time ago, and you know, it was during my Puff Puff Give days. When I used to do it a lot, that is. Robo Warrior. Actually, this is Robo King in Japan, I believe. Or Bomber King, excuse me. It's a game where you go around. Well, here's the cover art if you want to look at it. And they also had a Game Boy port of this called Blaster Master Boy, which has no affiliation whatsoever of Blaster Master. I don't know why Sunsoft bought the license to do the game on Game Boy, but it makes no sense to me. But this game sucks because, well, a lot of people like the game, but I think it sucks personally because I will beat it one day. Anyways, I'm trailing off again. You gotta find a certain item in the first stage to to beat the stage. Otherwise, it keeps looping and looping. I will beat it someday. Someday. Don't know when, just someday. I forgot the original Japanese name for this, but I just had it too. Shit. Anyways, this game's called Shatterhand. It's made by Natsume Angelico. There's a game where you're a robot in the Japanese version, but look at this fucked up cover art. Yes, it's like bootleg Terminator, hands down. But this is an excellent game. Don't let the cover art fool you. Trust me on that. Natsume's always been known to make great music in their games up into the days of making you pick up cow shit. Harvest Moon for the uninformed. Now this is actually a really good first-person RPG. I don't like the gay overtones in the terms of the cover art though. But I'll go ahead and show it. This is Swords and Serpents, made by Interplay, published by Acclaim. This is actually a good game. Don't let the Acclaim logo fool you. They published it. They really did not make this game. It was actually, if you turn it on, it says made by Interplay, who sucked after a certain point because Titus bought them out, and we all know what happened on that. Now, why I bought this game is unknown. I just remember seeing commercials for it and it looked really cool. But it's not until you play the game do you realize how much of a piece of shit it is. But this is one of those games you want to show your friends and make them suffer a little bit while playing. Heavy shredding. I mean, the game seriously looked cool. Commercial-wise, when I was a kid, I was like, that game looks cool. And then 7 years later, I picked it up and played it, and I'm like, what's the point of this? This game sucks. Whatever. I applaud Parker Brothers for doing something with their Nintendo license other than Monopoly, which in my opinion is cool when you're a kid. When you get older, you don't have the patience for it anymore. Okay. Gorilla Safari. This is actually the sequel to TNC Surf Designs. You play as the character Thrilla, who's a gorilla, and you surf, skateboard, and get through certain obstacles and whatnot, and you fight bosses. That's pretty much it. It's actually a very fun game. Don't mind the LJN logo. I know that looks, that brings back bad memories because, I'll be honest, they just threw games that didn't have fundamentals in terms of gameplay and just threw it in a cartridge and said, here you go. But this is actually one of my favorite LJN games. Even though they're a lot of their games that they made, the list is very low in terms of what I like by them. A classic by any means. I seriously can't stress that enough. What I'm about to show you is pretty much the holy grail of every gamer's collection. The Legend of Zelda. And its gold packaging. I tried very hard to take care of the cart. I got it at, let's see, how old was I? 13, 14. I was 14. It was after my birthday. My friends gave me $5 a piece. I went to Funkoland, bought this, and there was this record place on a couple miles away from here called Hot Hits, and that's where I picked up the sequel. Very fantastic game for a gamer that's worth their salt. Adventurers, anyways. Here's a classic Tecmo game, Star Force. I guess they released a better version of this in Japan. It was like an expansion or something. It's called like Star Force Plus. I'm not really too familiar. This cover art is fucked up. I don't even know if this game even ends. I've gotten probably to stage E, I want to say. It's been years since I even booted this up, but it's a good game. It's classic. This, however, is not a classic, and the game over face is just hysterical. The whole game is hysterical because it's just it's hysterically bad, needless to say. But Rambo. Kiddies, if you want to play a Rambo game, get a Sega Master System. Okay? That's all you need to know. When you want to play Rambo. Rambo 3, on the other hand, I prefer the Genesis version. Cobra Triangle, made by Rare Ltd. Fantastic game. Think of Spy Hunter that ends. You're given mission objectives every level and you have to fulfill them in order to pass the stage. And it's a lot of fun. The music's good, graphics are good. It's anything you would expect from a Rare title. Here's the NES conversion of Road Blasters, made by Mindscape. Basically, think of Rad Racer with guns. That's probably the best I can do. There's no in-game music except when you finish the stage and the title screen and the game over screen, I think, and that's about it. But it's a lot of fun. If you like the arcade game, you'll like the NES conversion, without a doubt. Granted, it doesn't have the same technical advantages as the arcade, but it's still worth a playthrough. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Do I really need to go over how awesome this game really is? This is better than the re-release of Punch-Out because they wanted to get rid of Mike Tyson's name due to his little rape charge he had in the late 80s, early 90s. So then when they re-released Punch-Out, it was just called Punch-Out, where he fought Mr. Dream, who looks like a flaming homosexual with pale skin. I'd rather fight Iron Mike. I don't know about you, but this is the original. That Punch-Out, to me, I don't register it in my head. Nope. Because that's what I was raised on. Possibly one of the first fighting games on the NES, and a very bad one. The arcade version wasn't much better either. It's good for a laugh, and that's all it's about. But it's Karate Champ. The reason why I bought this game is because me and my brother used to play this game all night, verse each other, and just have a blast. Then some years later, when I picked this up at Funko-Land for $3.99, I should have just bought Konami Stinger, which is pretty much Twin B, the first game on the NES. That would have been, without a shadow of a doubt, a better purchase. What I hold in my hands is the best game ever made, in my opinion. I don't care. You can have your piece of shit God of War, you can have your piece of shit Halo, your stupid first-person shooter, you can have your bootleg Belmont known as Dante from Devil May Cry, or bootleg Quan Chi, which is that of Kratos, except he's not a magician. I don't care. You can have all that. Alright? But that, to me, that's all shit compared to what I hold in my hand. This is, in my opinion, the best game that ever existed in the human existence of mankind. No game will ever top this. Never. The sequels suck ass. They could never recreate the beauty that this cart holds. I'm heavenly heavenly. Give me a minute, because I just had a brain explosion. Because every time I look at this cart, I get that excited still, after all these years. I get heavily excited. There's a word for this. I'm sorry, my brain just had an orgasm. I know that's pretty pathetic, but I'm a nerd, you know. Nerds are awesome people. I would never, ever be something else. People who are considered normal, they're the ones that really suck. They're boring too, may I add. Okay, another LJN release I hold in my hand. Now, when I was a kid, I really liked this game because it was fun. Now, when I got older, I realized how much of a piece of shit it is because it takes all the physics of the original game in question and ruins it. Major League Baseball for LJN. Now, here's my fucking question. How the hell does a shitty company like LJN get licensed for a baseball game? Huh? Why couldn't Bases Loaded, Baseball Stars, and games that were actually good and playable, why didn't they get the license? I guess LJN was a trusted toy company, and they made Thundercat toys, which were excellent quality. Their toys were quality. Their games were shit. They should have just stuck with the toys, and maybe they wouldn't be bankrupt today. One may never know. Here's another holy grail in my collection, and it's actually considerably rare and expensive, but it's one of my favorite titles in the series. They released it for the DS just recently. Well, actually, it wasn't... Yeah, we'll say recent, but not too recent. Anyways, Dragon Warrior 4. My brother gave this to me in 1997 for a Christmas gift. So, like I said, that was the golden year of collecting NES titles for me. Now, here's a game that you use a zapper only with. I don't have too many of those in my collection, and this is actually very hard. It's called To the Earth. It's made by Nintendo and was released in 1990. Not heard of, hardly, by any means, but if you ever were to slap this in your NES and get your zapper and play, you realize this game's a bitch. It's a lot of fun, though. After you lose your mind. You gotta get past that part, the part, when you get so mad and your mind gets all numb. Yeah, that feeling. Legendary Wings. This is a port of a Capcom game by the same name in the arcade. It plays considerably the same as the arcade version, just without the extra arcade board memory and graphical capabilities, but it's still pretty damn close to the arcade. And I prefer the NES ports over the arcade ports. I really do. I'm not kidding there. There's only a couple games on the NES made by Capcom that were arcade ports. Do I consider the inferior port, which I will get to later in my collection. Now, I don't know how you pronounce this next game, but you star in a protagonist by the name of Apollo. But I'm just going to go on a limb here and say what I think it's pronounced. Z's? I think that's how it's pronounced. When I was a kid, I just called it XCXYZ. You start Apollo and you have to save planets and shit. I mean, I don't really know the story behind it, really. I just know you save naked fairies in a bathtub, and that's, that's pretty hot, I guess, for a nerd. That's the closest you'll get to pornography when you see that little pixel of cleavage. I'm not kidding, pop it in. You don't see much, though. But that's the closest you'll get to pornography in terms of licensed content on the NES. Because the unlicensed shit, there's porn games like Strip Poker and Bubble Bath Babes. You look up emulation if you know what I mean, and you'll know what I mean. Here's an unlicensed game I own called Shinobi. It's the same game as the arcade, just without the good graphics and sound, but pretty faithful, I would say. Matter of fact, I enjoy it, but the ending made no sense. I don't want to spoil it for you, so I won't say what it is. The only thing I'll say, it's a picture, which makes no sense whatsoever. Next is a Konami classic that started the genre of one of my favorite shmups of all time. You probably already know what it is. Konami shmup, what comes to mind? Yeah, Gradius. And look up here, it says, up here, it says 1 million sold in Japan. Who gives a shit how much it sells in Japan? Japan has a bit different taste than we do in terms of games. But then again, back then it was a big deal, I suppose. Did you know there was an arcade game of Gradius? That was pretty good too. I must prefer the NES port, only because the arcade port is ridiculously cheap and not worth playing. I don't like games that are ridiculously cheap. There's a difference between challenge and cheap. That game is cheap. A lot of people are going to disagree with my statement I'm going to make about this sequel. But I like this sequel more than the third game, Super Mario Bros. 2. This is my favorite in the series. of the original NES games, because you can. It's not based off of real Mario. Don't get me started. I know that the game in Japan was called Doki Doki Panic. Okay, I know it was an FDS game, and you played a bunch of, I don't know, carpet riders. I don't Arabics. I don't know. It was based off of I guess some kind of Arabian theme, Arabian Nights. I don't know. No, that's Prince of Persia. But yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I know this ain't the true Mario 2. This is called Mario 2 USA in Japan, I believe. But I love the game. I like picking up shit and throwing it. It's fun. But if you really want to get technical, my favorite Mario in terms of the Mario games that weren't ports or modifications of anything is Super Mario World. Okay? In the old games. New games, I would have to say Mario Galaxy 1. 2, I understand 2 was a improvement of 1, but I don't know. Like I said, sequels never have the same feeling as the original. Sometimes it betters the original, and surpasses it in terms of features and things you can do, but I like the feeling of something new when it is new. The game audience doesn't feel that way anymore. Here's a game that I don't know what Capcom was thinking. During the time this game wasn't even heard of, they were actually making a Street Fighter 2 port for the NES. It was an EGM, but it became this weird game, but I like the game. Not very popular in many circles, but it's Street Fighter The Final Fight 2010, or 2010 The Final Fight. I don't know if you're Ken Masters, but you are a Ken character, and this, I don't know what the fuck is going on in this cover art. Huh. This looks like you shoot somebody in the chest. Too bad the game wasn't that cool. I bought this for a reason, because one day I knew I would have this thing. For old time's sakes, let me put it on my hand. Now, those who have seen my videos from the very beginning know what this is. It's the Power Glove. It's so bad. Term's overused now. I'll just say the demonious way. It fucking sucks dick. It doesn't control worth a shit. And, if it was made today, it would probably work the way it was supposed to. I mean, this was innovative for its time. And the glove does look badass. I mean, don't get me wrong. And what's funny is... never mind. I'll discuss that another time. Anyways, the game is Super Glove Ball. I originally didn't have the Power Glove when I got this game. But I knew somewhere down the road I would get one. And this is why I picked this up. I made a review on my old channel of this game. This is Mega Man 2. Probably one of the greatest games of this generation. If it's not the greatest, Blaster Master is, but there's no other game that could ever come close to this of its kind. You know what I mean? But I don't know. There's something about Mega Man 2 that's just magical. Could be the soundtrack, could be the graphics, could be the gameplay, could be anything, really. Oh, Jesus. This is the original Mega Man. Notice that terrible cover art. When did they get this done? Like the day before it was released or something? Because I remember the video that they showed on, unfortunately it was G4, and I hate G4. I don't like companies that are anti-Nintendo, only because I've been a Nintendo fan growing up, and media to bash a company that pretty much revolutionized this industry should just get the fuck out. And G4 is one of them. But yeah, according to that interview, I guess this was like made before release, so they just stuck with it. Something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Now, they came out with the 64 version of this game, and it was a fighting game. But this was actually quest-based, and it used that idiotic, stupid Flying Warrior system. I'm talking about Flying Dragon: The Secret Skulls. There's two parts of the game. There's a fighting mode, and there's a side-scroll mode. And the side scroll, excuse me. Hang on a sec, I just need to adjust the carts. Okay, well, fuck you, man. Anyways. You had side scroll modes that was like kung fu and platforms. The next part was a fighting mode. In the fighting mode, you had like spots appear in different parts of the body and you had to hit them. Easier said than done. And it's also hard to block attacks because sometimes it doesn't work correctly. Here's another arcade port of an arcade port in NES form, Commando. I guess it stands for, in the Japanese one, I guess stands for Lone Wolf in the Battlefield or something like that. And there was a sequel, believe it or not, and it was called Mercs. Now, Commando is an excellent game. I must prefer the arcade version for one reason. You don't have to beat the game 4 times for it to be the final ending. But I guess they had to make it longer for the NES release so it would justify the purchase price. Shadowgate. It's one of those pick and choose your adventures. You know what I like to do in these? Find a knife in the kitchen and use it on yourself so your game ends. And the way to describe it is just so morbid, the way they do that. Here's a game that not many people played or heard of or even remembered. Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, based off the movie. This is actually an excellent game. Virgin Games was a good company. They released some very good stuff. And also, this actually is one of the games that has 2 game over screens. And the second one used to give me nightmares, which is one of the ones I'll probably show in my game over video thingamajig. Keep in mind, I'm an adult now, and most of the stuff I was scared of as a child, I'm no longer scared of. But there are some things that still stick with me, unfortunately. I'm not afraid to admit that. Hang on a second, I'm sorry about this, guys. Sorry about that. This video ain't the best, I know, but okay, this is one of the ones I was talking about. Another one. This for the NES to me is shite compared to the arcade. Strider in the arcade was definitely a better game, and the Genesis port was almost identical to the arcade. I mean, there were a couple maybe sprite differences, but the sound was like dead on with the arcade. The NES one was, trying to be unique and different in that, and I give it respect for that. But truth of the matter is, it fails on what it's trying to do. Here's a game company that made itself under another name because they were trying to bypass that NES law of 5 games per year per company. Ultra Games, Konami, Base Wars. Probably one of the baseball games I really enjoy. Now, where are games like this today? The sport games that have a little fun with itself. You know what I mean? Like, remember games like Arch Rivals and Pigskin Football for the Genesis, and you know, those in Mutant League Hockey and football. I love those games because they're not like the real sport they are, but they put something in it that allows you to want to play it. You know, who wants to play Madden anymore? Seriously, well, except people that jock it every year. Oh yeah, gotta get that Madden. Madden sucks my fucking ball sack. Okay, let's get that on the fucking table. Madden sucks. He's old balls. He's retired. No one gives a shit about him. People play the game, obviously like to play the same game over and over again. Therefore, you lack creativity and originality, and you need to go fuck yourself. It's just my opinion. Take it as you will. Okay, this is also an arcade game. Narc. Arcade version's better. However, if you don't have a GameCube or a Wii or a way to play a way to play Midway Arcade Treasures 2, this is a way to go, I guess. Or if you have a computer, just play it on MAME. But the NES version, don't bother with. If you're looking for authenticity, whatever that word is, I don't know. It's 6:23 in the morning, and I'm kind of tired and shit. I've been up since, I don't even remember. Anyways, back on topic. This is the sequel to Star Tropics 2 Zoda's Revenge. I prefer this over the original because, for one, you can move in a diagonal. You can move diagonally. 2, you can shoot diagonally. And 3, I feel it to be more deep in terms of story and gameplay. Unfortunately, we haven't heard anything from Star Tropics since then. And this sequel just came and went, and no one really paid notice except the ones who were big fans of the original, like I was. But you gotta admit, it's Zelda with a fucking yo-yo, okay? That's pretty much all it was. And I think that's why it didn't do so well. But you never know with NES titles. Now, when I seen this game on the Game Player's Guide, I really wanted to try it out. I really wanted to play because it looked different. It looked kind of interesting, and many of you have played this on many platforms. But here you go. It's Defender of the Crown. I don't know what to say about it. It is a good game. I just can't get into it though. I recently found out this game did not end, but it's still a fun game to play, and this cartridge is in really good condition. Salmon, whatever. Salem, I don't know. I don't have good pronunciational skills when it comes to pronouncing stupid words like that. Yeah, no, 28-year-old, it's pretty pathetic, I know. I don't care, you know, I really don't. Once again, a claim with movie licenses. This game is crap. But it is playable. That's not saying much. I did not know this was an arcade game until 2001, when I started figuring out how to use MAME. Russian attack. Also known as Green Beret to UK, Australian, and European countries. PAL region. PAL. What a shitty format. I won't go there. Now this has a fanboy base, and this is probably the only version of the game I like, other than the MSX version. Metal Gear. Other than the typos, it's a pretty damn good game. The MSX version is definitely better, though. Check that out. Unfortunately, the PAL version got the better cover art, because this one makes no sense to the game in question. It still looks cool, because this company does have excellent cover art for their games. The Guardian Legend. the PAL got the better version because you got to see the super sexy Guardian on the cover. And I also heard there's even more sexier art made by fans out there of the Guardian. I'll have to check that out someday because I'm curious to see the imaginations and of artiste. Anyways, this is a port of an arcade game, and I enjoy this more in the arcade version because that version was just way too cheap. But Double Dragon. Seriously, that version is a lot better to me. It's more playable. The arcade version is so damn cheap, you'll rip your hair out in terms of difficulty. I remember when this game came out, I seriously didn't know what system it was for. The graphics were that good to me. And I seen the commercial. I didn't know what it was for. It didn't say what it was for. But it looked better than Nintendo. So I was like, man, I'll never be able to play that. It's not for Nintendo, but sure the hell it was. And that's Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu. This was also released on the PC Engine TurboGrafx 16. Which was better graphics. And that was in colors. And that was it. I prefer the NES version because I like the sound musically better. Okay, I bought this because it was 60 cents. No joke. And it's a sports game, and it is probably one of the hardest golf games you'll ever play, but that's the original NES Golf. Trust me, this game will whoop your ass, and you'll get pissed off at yourself playing it. But it's still a good game. I recently, why do I keep saying recently? A little while back, I made a video of me failing at this game, and it's on my channel. I'm sure y'all seen it. But, yeah, it's Amagon. Amagon. Another Quest game that is excellent. And it actually had a sequel many years later that was good. Well, not really a true sequel, but it was an updated version of a game with this character in it. And it came out on Wii as well as the Battle of Argus. You know what I'm talking about, but Rygar. One of my favorite games. In terms of adventure. Now see, I didn't know this was an arcade game. This is actually a remake of the arcade game, given the extra story and a few other things. Excellent game though. I like the music in it especially, but it's Dragon Spirit: The New Legend. Now I thought this was based off an anime because of the cover art, but it's not. Excellent game though. Even the arcade game's really good. We're almost done with the first drawer. I have about 4 drawers, but they're not all filled with NES games, just these 2 are. Now, for some reason, I can't find the commercial for this. The one that had Fabio in it. Iron Sword. Wizards and Warriors 2. I have mixed feelings about Wizards and Warriors. I don't like the fact that there's a jumping mechanic, and every single time you move, you jump more than you walk. Why? And finding some of the items that you need in the game, such as the, what was it, the spiked boots or something like that? Because remember, in Ice Fire Mountain, you need those to navigate. So how are you supposed to pass the level? If you have the element, or the spell to beat the element, and you do it, what, you have to die no matter what in the last stage? See, I never got that far. I've gotten to the stage prior to Ice Fire Mountain. Let me know. I'm curious. This is the best sequel to also that of a good game. And this is probably the best in the series next to the Super NES counterpart. I'm okay. Double Dragon 2. The Revenge. The best 2-player Double Dragon known to date next to Super Double Dragon. If you don't agree, well, that's your problem, I suppose. I actually used this on the power pad the other day just to test my power pad. It works because my friend gave it to me. Track and field. Track and field has a charm that you just can't. You can't seem to shake. You know what I mean? Alright, drawer is almost finished. Hopefully I can fit all this on my YouTube channel, since I've been upgraded in terms of what length I can upload my videos. We'll have to see. Anyways, Incoherent games. This game's actually a lot of fun. Did you know this was made by Electronic Arts? Yeah, it was licensed by Data East. It's a collaboration of mini games that you're like in the Olympics with cavemen, and you do stuff like Firestar, and you get to toss your mate and shit like that. It was a lot of fun when you were a kid. It was one of those games you could play all night and just get lost in. Now, many of you were fans of Armic 21 as much as I was. I mean, he was a funny guy. I don't think he liked me, but whatever. I mean, to each their own. He didn't like this game. But I have to disagree with what he said. I actually enjoyed this game, and I played it from beginning to end with none of the problems that he faced. Predator. It's not a great game, but it is a good game and worth a playthrough. I mean, seriously. This would have been better with the 2-player mode, and it's a faithful recreation of the arcade title. POW. The second stage music gets stuck in my head, and I hate it for that reason alone. Okay. I like old school wrestling games. I've always have. Excuse me. And, well, this is no exception. I like this one because it has an announcer, but you know, you don't hear his voice, obviously. It's not synthesized. And NES didn't have the memory to do that. However, the commentary on the bottom of the screen fit the match, and it was kind of cool. But it's Tecmo World Wrestling. To me, this was probably the best wrestling game in the NES. I know that's stretching it a little, but that's just my opinion. Now, when I seen the cover, I already knew what this was mocking. And this is a terrible game, even in its original right. Dragon Power. This is Dragon Ball. Shenron. Oh shit, I don't know the Japanese name right now, but yeah. I got the translated ROM on my NES emulator for the Wii. The game is. It sucks. So the cool part though is Master Roshi, when you give him the sandwich in the American version, you gotta give him panties in the Japanese version. So you get all the sexual references from the Dragon Ball anime. No, I'm not a big Dragon Ball fan. I don't even care for it very much, but there were a couple episodes and parts in the series that were cool. And I like the movies too, but that's it. I'm not much of an anime buff at all. Okay. Here's the first Wizards and Warriors. If you ever want to play Wizards and Warriors, play only the first game. The other two will let you down. Some will debate about Iron Sword, though. Some say the Iron Sword is the best one. Musically, yes. Gameplay, no. Arcade game is a very highly addictive, amazing game. For an addictive afternoon, evening, whatever. At first, when I seen this cover art, I thought this had some kind of affiliation with the Archie comics, because the cover art resembles that of Archie. But, you know, I'm probably just going hanging out on a limb there with that, but it's bump and jump. Very addictive, fun game with catchy music that will drive you insane. This is one of my favorites too. It's not, you know, you see my top 10, I'm not changing that, but if I had to do a top 20, this would definitely be on the list. Shadow of the Ninja. This game's cool. Did you know that Natsume, I don't know exactly how it goes, but I think parts of Natsume were part of Tecmo at one point, and a lot of them created Natsume, and they made Shadow the Ninja to a response to Ninja Gaiden. I don't know the exact legend on that, but I would have to say it's true. One drawer is done with this last game in my hand, and it is a terrible, terrible game. You ready? Yeah, I hate this game, but it was $2 at Funkoland. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Okay, let's start the second drawer. I know this is boring and monotonous, but y'all want to see my NES collection, so you're just going to have to go with it or watch something else on YouTube. This is actually a very good game, and when I saw commercials, it looked good, and, you know, I wasn't disappointed at all. It's Wrath of the Black Manta. Of course, I think there's some kind of child molestation message they're trying to send out in this game. Like when the kid goes, woo! You know, when he just got doing fucking. The world may never know. And I showed you the sequel first, and I should have showed you this one first, but what the hell. I mean, I'm not doing this in any particular order. I got the original Star Tropics as well. Zelda with a yo-yo. But some of you don't know the password to get to that one island. I'll be nice and tell you, 747. And no, I didn't look that up on GameFAQs either. I actually had the booklet. The booklet got ruined over time. Unlike that stinking redesigned box art that they released in 1992, I actually own the original art and cartridge for it because, come on, we all love it off this, whatever that word is. Metroid. My friend Bill came over a couple weekends ago and he was like, oh, look what I got, and it was a redesigned cartridge. I'm like, why do you want to get that one? Get the original cartridge. Okay, I want the sequel to this, and I will get it one day, but the original is not bad. Some of you in the UK may know this as Wonder Boy. Adventure Island. With the protagonist, Master Higgins. The fat ass with that eats fruit more than anybody that I've ever met in my life. My dad bought this one. Of course, he didn't have a Nintendo, so he gave the game to me. It's based off a pinball game of the same name, and I guess it was so popular they decided just to convert it to an NES game. Pinbot. The Bride of Pinbot. I can recall people playing that game and getting kind of hot and bothered by the cover. I'm not kidding. I wasn't one of them because I was a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you're like, ooh, girls, icky. Man, you rather look at, I don't know, Pac-Man than a chick back when you're a kid. That didn't sound like I did it. Whoopsie. I like baseball games on the NES. I'm not a fan of the actual game, but I do like the games on the NES only because of all the other versions of baseball on other systems after the NES. It didn't have the same feeling or magic. Matter of fact, most of SNES and Genesis baseball games were pretty shite. Anyways, baseball. The outfielding in this is terrible. You can go ahead and point that out. Go ahead. I'm not denying it in the slightest. Now this game pisses me off for 3 reasons. One, unless you truly know what you're doing, you'll never beat this. Ever. You could sit there and you can try and try and try. Logic is definitely against you in this title. 2, your partner pisses me off. I hate her with a passion. And 3, I don't know a third reason right now, but here you go. Some people have very fond memories of this game. I like it, just some things about it piss me off. This was given to me by a friend because he don't play NES anymore. And it sucks ass, I'm not gonna lie. World games. The fun part is where you take the log and you throw it, and if you don't catch it, it hits you in the head and puts you in the ground. That's funny. Okay. I'm gonna try to drag this out for an hour and then let's see if YouTube will let me upload it. Okay. OG Man. Pretty good game. You can take over some you can jump really high, I guess that's why, because he has low gravity. And you can take over some robot monsters things. However, I don't like how the game's set up, like the level designs. I don't like it. I like the game, I just don't like the level designs. The game that used Metroid's engine and pisses off gamers even to this very day. Only the hardcore need apply. This cost me a good 15 bucks. A lot of people hate this, but it's one of my favorite titles to play every now and again. It was known as Mad City in Japan. Here in the Americas, it's The Adventures of Bobby Billy. And one of my favorite things about it is well, you know. Load up the game if you know what I'm talking about. I hate this game. I loved it as a kid. I hate it now. Second Ikari Warriors game. Do I need to tell you why I hate it? No, I don't. Play it yourself. This game is really good. It's probably one of Taito's finest titles in the NES, and the sequel is just as good, if not better. Power Blade. Even though I must say the cover is fagtastic. I still can't make sense of this game. Apparently, you're some, I don't know. I'll show it to you. Clash of Demon Head. I forgot the story, so I can't tell you what it is. I'm sorry. This game was 30 cents, no joke. And I thought it'd be cool to just to test out, but it makes me wonder what Nintendo was thinking when they created this game. NES Play Action Football. I was hoping for a Tecmo Bowl clone. I can hear the laughing right now. Damn you, Demonius, you dumb shit. Here's an excellent game. Matter of fact, like I said, if I made a top 20, this would definitely also be on it. It's Vice Project Doom. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil something for you though. There should have been a sequel. They basically gave way for a sequel in the ending. Perhaps the game sold poorly. We'll never know the true reason behind it. An arcade game. And the Japanese version is better because I recently played it on my emulator on the Wii, and it has swear words and little scenes before the boss fights, but bad dudes. Called Dragon Ninja in Japan. Another game I'm not really too fond of. I know I have a lot of games I'm not too fond of, but I still play them. Just because they're fun to play. Just because I'm not too fond of them doesn't mean they're not fun to play. They just have little flaws in it that piss me off. Need I say more? And I don't see how people like the music in that game. It's annoying. Yay, Demonius. Yay! I thought this was Zelda 3 when it first came out. This is the Battle of Olympus. I seriously thought this was a sequel to Zelda. I'm not kidding. Because the game looks so much like Zelda 2, I was like, oh my god, is that the sequel to Zelda 2? I'm so happy. Because Zelda 2 is my favorite 8-bit Zelda. My dad got me this back when I was a kid. Yep, same copy. Wasn't this game like $70 when it first came out? Oh my gosh, it wasn't even that good. My dad and I used to play it though, so it holds that magic in my heart. Things I've done with my dada. I'm sure y'all done some cool stuff with your dad once in a while when you were kids. Sequel to a well-known arcade game. The arcade game is a lot better, but for a home port, it's not so bad. Gauntlet 2. And this, if you had the 4-player adapter thingamajig that was released on the NES, you could play 4 players with your friends. But that's why we got games like Gauntlet Legends. We don't need the older ports anymore, because they don't do it as well as Legends did. Now this game is a bitch, and it even says that on the front of the cart. You can't read it, but it says on the cart though. No one said that this would be easy. Sky Shark, excellent music. I still need to see NES games to do music like this, and it's the percussion too. Alright, 2 more games and I'm gonna have to end this video and make part 2 tomorrow or later. Excellent game with excellent music. This is when Sunsoft was at its prime. The Joker though, whew, he was a bitch. This is SNK Iron Tank. I really can't say too much about this. It's called The Invasion of Normandy. Some history there. SNK really focused on history with their war games. Guerrilla War. Car Warriors maybe. I don't know. Car Warriors sucks, so I can't believe people actually like that game. The arcade game of this is impossible, so I must prefer the NES version. But the NES version did... I think that's why Capcom made this purposely a simple port. This is the end of part 1. Sorry if it bores you, but like I said, I'm just packing them away for when I move. So I'm just showing you and telling you about the game, giving you a little description on how the game is. But yeah, I hope you enjoy for what it is, and I will be doing probably the second part tomorrow. I'm not even done yet, and I'm probably a little over a quarter done. I'm sorry, you guys, you can tell my speaking is getting a little because I'm getting tired. It's 7:14, and I had to stop the recording before because my camera was starting to shut off and shut on and shut off, so I had to cut part of the last game I was showing you off and go ahead and save that and then add this part to it. So yeah, this is the end of part 1. Watch part 2 if you, and hopefully it won't span more than, you know, a couple parts. But since I'm allowed to make longer videos on YouTube, hopefully we won't have to do that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed part 1, and part 2 should be coming tomorrow sometime. You know, depends on what I'm doing, because I got a lot of stuff I got to do tomorrow, or today rather. But yeah, we'll see what goes on, guys. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a good night.